The music stopped. Not because the band made a mistake. Not because there was a power cut. It stopped because everyone felt it. In the middle of the grand ballroom at Echo Atlantic, under crystal chandeliers that shone like captured stars, Nigeria's most powerful CEO leaned down and whispered into the ear of a poor man standing barefoot on a marble floor. People gasped. Phones paused mid-recording. Champagne glasses trembled in hands. And then the billionaire said the words that would change everything. "Read this before you are left behind. One arc can make you a billionaire." The poor man's eyes widened. His knees almost gave way. No one understood what it meant. Not yet. Because this was Edwin Anderson, the CEO billionaire everyone thought they knew, but no one truly understood. And the shocking truth was this: that poor man looked exactly like Edwin did 20 years ago. The camera lights flashed again. The music slowly returned. Laughter tried to fill the air. But something had already shifted. And as Edwin straightened his expensive suit, his mind traveled backward. Back to a time when he had nothing, not even hope. What no one at that party knew was this. This whisper was not random. It was a promise. And it was the beginning of another test. Rain poured like the sky was angry. Edwin Anderson stood under a broken bus stop umbrella, his shoes torn, his stomach empty. He was 16, no father, no mother, no one waiting at home, just a small nylon bag holding his school books and one clean shirt. Being poor was not just hard, it was humiliating. People looked through you as if you were invisible. Others looked at you like a problem, but Edwin had something different. He believed tomorrow could be better. That belief pushed him through secondary school, where he washed cars after class and cleaned classrooms at night just to pay fees. When hunger came, he drank water and slept. When pain came, he smiled. When hope felt far, he whispered to himself, "One day, I will help people like me." That promise followed him to university. He studied business administration, sitting in the front row with borrowed textbooks and worn notebooks. While others partied, Edwin worked, security guard by night, library cleaner by dawn, student by day. He was tired, but he never stopped being kind. If someone forgot lunch, Edwin shared his bread. If someone cried, Edwin listened. Even when he had little, he gave. It was a hot afternoon in Victoria Island. Edwin had just finished submitting CVs, rejection after rejection. His feet hurt. His shirt was soaked in sweat. That was when he saw her. A young woman stood beside a black SUV, panic written all over her face. The car had broken down in traffic. Driver shouted, horns screamed. No one stopped, except Edwin. "Madam, are you okay?" he asked. She looked shocked. "My phone is dead. I don't know anyone here." Edwin pushed the car with two mechanics, bought her water with his last money, and waited with her until help arrived. He did not ask for her name. He did not ask for money. He simply said, "Please, be safe." That young woman was Anita Forbes, and her father was Mr. Forbes Shore, the billionaire owner of Seashore Oil and Gas. Edwin did not know this, but fate did. Weeks later, Edwin walked into Seashore Oil and Gas to submit another CV. His heart pounded. Before he could speak, a voice said, "It's him." He turned. Anita stared at him, smiling wide. "You helped me," she said. Within days, Edwin got a job. Not because of pity, but because of character. He started small, junior sales assistant. He worked harder than anyone. He refused bribes. He spoke the truth, even when it hurt. People mocked him. Too righteous. Too soft. Too kind. But Edwin never changed. Then tragedy struck. One of the company's senior CEOs died in a helicopter crash while sealing a major deal. The company shook. Mr. Forbes Shore made a decision that shocked everyone. "We will test everyone," he said, "to see who truly deserves leadership." The tests began quietly. Edwin was called in one morning. "You are demoted," HR said. From senior sales office to doorman. The room spun. Others who were demoted shouted and resigned. They called it humiliation. Edwin bowed his head. "I understand," he said, and the test truly began. As a doorman, Edwin opened doors for people who once called him brother. Some laughed at him. Some ignored him. Some insulted him. But Edwin still smiled. When a cleaner fainted, Edwin carried her to the clinic. When a visitor got lost, Edwin guided him patiently. When a young intern cried over a mistake, Edwin encouraged him. One arc, one act of random kindness. Every day, unknown to Edwin, cameras were watching, and someone was taking notes. The scene snapped back to the present. The ballroom lights dimmed slightly. The poor man looked at Edwin with trembling lips. "Sir, why me?" Edwin's eyes softened. Just as he was about to answer, a woman's sharp voice cut through the hall. "Edwin!" It was Monica Anderson, his wife. Her eyes burned with anger and fear. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Everyone is watching." Edwin slowly turned back to the poor man. He leaned closer and whispered something only the poor man could hear. The poor man gasped, and the room fell silent. The poor man staggered back as if the whisper had pushed him. His eyes filled with tears. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Monica Anderson noticed. Her grip tightened around her glass. She watched the poor man clutch his chest like someone who had just seen a ghost. "What did you tell him?" she asked Edwin through clenched teeth, forcing a smile for the cameras. Edwin did not answer. Instead, he gently placed a folded card into the poor man's shaking hand and said calmly, "Eat well tonight. Tomorrow will need your strength." The man nodded again and again, overwhelmed. The band resumed playing. Laughter returned, but something was wrong. People whispered. Security watched closely. And Monica was furious because she knew that look on Edwin's face. It was the same look he had the day everything changed. The humiliation did not end with the doorman role. That was only the beginning. 1 week after Edwin became a doorman, he was transferred again. This time to the warehouse. Dust, heavy boxes, long hours. Then accounting, then logistics, then maintenance. Each move came with whispers. "They are breaking him. He will resign soon. He is too proud to survive this." But Edwin did not resign. Instead, he learned. In the warehouse, he learned how goods moved. In accounting, he learned where money leaked. In logistics, he learned why delays cost millions. At night, he wrote notes in a small brown notebook. Not complaints, lessons. And through it all, his kindness never stopped. When a worker's child was sick, Edwin contributed money. When a cleaner's husband died, Edwin organized support. When a junior staff was falsely accused, Edwin spoke up, even when it cost him favor. One arc, one act of random kindness, every single day. One evening, after work, Edwin noticed a security guard crying behind the building. "What's wrong?" Edwin asked gently. "My son needs surgery," the guard said. "I have given up." Edwin sat with him until night fell. He did not have much money, but he had something else. Information. The next morning, Edwin walked into accounting with his notebook. He submitted a detailed report showing how the company could recover millions lost through simple errors and corruption. He handed it to the receptionist. "For the CEO," he said. Everyone laughed. "A doorman?" A warehouse boy? Who does he think he is? But the file reached Mr. Forbes Shore, and the billionaire read it, twice. No announcement was made, no applause, but changes followed. Departments improved, losses reduced, profits rose, and Edwin was quietly called into a meeting. "You have worked in almost every department," Mr. Shore said calmly. "You understand this company better than most executives." Edwin said nothing. "You are now the second highest shareholder," Mr. Shore continued. The room froze. Edwin's knees nearly gave way. He did not shout. He did not boast. He simply bowed his head. "Thank you, sir," he said. Outside that room, Monik Anderson smiled. But behind that smile was fear. Monik loved wealth, not comfort, control. She liked knowing that power rested in her hands alone. And as Edwin rose, she felt threatened. "If others rise," she told herself, "we will fall." She began to whisper into Edwin's ears at night. "Stop helping people. They will drag you down. Kindness is weakness." But Edwin remembered hunger. He remembered rejection. He remembered sleeping hungry with hope as his blanket. He refused. That refusal created a crack. And cracks let darkness in. The poor man finally opened the folded card Edwin gave him. Inside were just 4 words. "One arc can change everything." Below it was an address. And a time. Tomorrow morning. The man's breath caught. He looked up. But Edwin was already walking away. Monik followed him, heels clicking sharply. "You are embarrassing me," she whispered angrily. "You are giving away power." Edwin stopped walking. He turned slowly and said calmly but firmly, "Power that cannot be shared is poison." Monik froze. Across the hall, the poor man wiped his tears. He did not know why, but for the first time in years, he felt seen. What he did not know was this. He had just stepped into the same test Edwin once faced, and the test had already begun. High above the ballroom in a private lounge, a man watched everything on a screen. He smiled. "Just like before," he said softly. He picked up his phone and made a call. "Prepare the files," he ordered. "The next trial starts tonight." The screen paused on the poor man's face, and the smile widened. Clinton did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his thin mattress, the folded card resting on his palm, like it might disappear if he blinked too long. The room smelled of damp walls and old hope. Outside, Lagos never slept. Sirens, shouting, distant laughter. But inside his chest, everything was silent and loud at the same time. "One arc can change everything." He whispered the words again and again. His name was Clinton. He was 34 years old, once a bright student, once full of plans. Life had not been kind. His small tailoring shop burned down during a sudden power surge. His savings vanished in hospital bills. Friends slowly disappeared. Hunger stayed. He had attended the party only because he was hired to help move chairs and decorations. When the event ended, no one remembered him. And then the whisper happened. By morning, Clinton had made a decision. He would go. The address on the card led Clinton to an old building in Yaba. Not a mansion, not a luxury office, just a quiet, worn structure with cracked paint and a simple sign. Arc Foundation. Clinton frowned. "This must be a mistake," he whispered. He checked the card again. Same address, same time. Before he could turn back, the door opened. A woman smiled warmly. "You're early." Inside, Clinton froze. The room was filled with people like him. A woman in faded slippers. A man with rough hands and tired eyes. A young boy clutching a brown envelope. They all looked confused, broken, hopeful. Then the door closed. A calm voice echoed through the room. Welcome. A tall man stepped forward. Clean suit, sharp eyes. My name is Mr. Attawale, he said. This is not charity. This is a test. The room shifted uncomfortably. You were selected, Attawale continued, because someone noticed how you treat people when no one is watching. Clinton's heart raced. Today, Attawale said, you will receive help. What you do with it will decide what happens next. Envelopes were handed out. Clinton opened his slowly. Money. Enough to eat well. Enough to breathe again. You have 12 hours, Attawale said. You are free to go. No rules, no instructions. That scared Clinton more than hunger ever had. Outside, people scattered in different directions. Some ran, some cried, some hid the money inside their clothes. Clinton stood still. Then he saw her. A woman sat by the roadside, rocking a baby burning with fever. Her eyes were empty with fear. People walked past her. Clinton looked down at the envelope in his hand. He remembered the fire, the hospital debts, the nights he slept hungry. His chest tightened. Slowly, he walked toward the woman. Madam, he said softly, please, let me help. He spent almost everything. When he walked away, he had just enough to get home. He felt foolish, but strangely free. Across the street, behind dark-tinted glass, Edwin Anderson watched quietly. Beside him stood Mr. Forbes Shore. He chose kindness, Edwin said softly. Mr. Shore nodded. Just like you did. Edwin smiled faintly. One arc. Behind them, Monica Anderson watched silently. Her lips curled. Waste, she whispered. That night, Clinton returned to his small room, tired, broke, calm. A knock came. 3 men stood outside. Arc Foundation, one said. There's an issue. They searched his room, found nothing. Then one man shook his head. Your name has been removed. Clinton felt his heart drop. Removed? He whispered. You failed, the man said coldly. You gave away the money. The door closed. Clinton sat on the floor and laughed once. Then the tears came. Morning arrived. Another knock. This time, only one man stood there. Mr. Attawale. You passed, he said calmly. Clinton stared at him. You chose people over yourself, Attawale continued. That is rare. He handed Clinton another card. Inside was a key and a note. Department C. Report at 6 a.m. Elsewhere, Edwin sat alone in his study. The same brown notebook lay open before him. He remembered his own journey. The demotion, the humiliation, the nights he nearly quit, and how kindness carried him when pride would have destroyed him. His phone buzzed. A message from Attawale. Phase 2 begins. Edwin closed the notebook. Thunder rolled outside. In another room, Monica held her phone tightly. This must stop, she said sharply. He is repeating your past. The voice on the other end was calm. You cannot stop what has already started. Monica's eyes darkened. Then change the outcome. She ended the call and smiled. At exactly 6 a.m., Clinton stood before a steel door labeled Department C. It opened slowly. Inside were hundreds of files and one empty chair. A voice spoke behind him. Sit. Clinton turned and froze. Standing there, watching him closely, was Edwin Anderson, the CEO billionaire himself, the man who whispered. Edwin spoke quietly. Let me see how you treat power. Clinton's throat went dry. The room felt smaller the moment Edwin Anderson stepped fully into the light. This was not the Edwin from the news or magazines, not the smiling billionaire shaking hands with presidents. This Edwin was quiet, watchful, and heavy with something deeper than wealth. Sit, Edwin repeated, his voice calm but firm. Clinton obeyed. The chair felt cold beneath him. Around them, the room was lined with tall shelves packed with files. Each file carried a name. Some were neat and new. Others were old, worn at the edges, like they had been touched many times. "What is this place?" Clinton asked softly. Edwin did not answer immediately. He walked slowly, running his fingers across the files like a man walking through memories. "This," Edwin said at last, "is where futures are tested." He stopped in front of one shelf and pulled out a file. Clinton noticed the name on it. Clinton. His heart skipped. "You have been watched," Edwin continued, "not because you are special, but because you were ordinary and chose kindness anyway." Clinton swallowed. "Sir, I don't understand why I am here." Edwin turned to face him. "That is good," he said. "People who think they understand everything are the most dangerous." Edwin gestured toward the files. "Each file represents a real situation," he explained. "Real people, real money, real consequences." Clinton's eyes widened. "You will make decisions," Edwin said. "Some will look small. Some will feel impossible." He leaned forward slightly. "And no one will clap for you." Clinton's hands trembled. "What happens if I fail?" Edwin's eyes softened, but only briefly. "Failure," he said, "does not always look like loss. Sometimes it looks like success that poisons others." The door behind them clicked shut. The test had begun. Edwin slid a file across the desk. Inside were documents about a small logistics company, profitable, growing. But buried deep in the papers was a problem. The company owed its drivers unpaid wages. "If you approve this deal," Edwin said, "the company will expand. Profits will rise." Clinton nodded slowly. "But," Edwin continued, "those drivers will never be paid." Clinton's chest tightened. "If you reject it," Edwin said, "the company may collapse. Hundreds could lose their jobs." Silence filled the room. Clinton stared at the file. "Sir," he said carefully, "what did you do in situations like this?" Edwin smiled faintly. "I am not the one being tested," he replied. Clinton closed his eyes. He remembered the warehouse workers at Seashore Oil and Gas, stories Edwin once told him. Men who worked until their backs broke. Women who cried quietly during lunch. "One arc," Clinton whispered. He picked up a pen and wrote his decision. Conditional approval. All driver wages must be settled before expansion. He slid the file back. Edwin read it slowly. Then he nodded. "You chose the harder path," Edwin said. "Power often punishes those who use it to protect others." Clinton looked up. "Then why give it at all?" Edwin's eyes locked onto his. "Because," he said, "someone must." Elsewhere, Monica Anderson sat in a private office, watching live feeds from Department C. Her nails dug into her palm. "He's guiding him," she snapped. "This is unfair." A man beside her hesitated. "Sir, ma'am, Edwin only observes." Monica turned sharply. "Observation is influence." She stood and straightened her dress. "Prepare the alternative file," she ordered. "The one that looks generous." The man hesitated again. "That file has consequences." Monica smiled coldly. "So does kindness," she said. Back in Department C, a new file appeared on the desk. This one looked clean. Too clean. A charity foundation. Large donations. Public praise guaranteed. "If you approve this," Edwin said, "you will be celebrated." Clinton flipped through the pages. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. He paused. "Sir?" Clinton said slowly. "Who controls this charity?" Edwin did not answer. Clinton dug deeper. Hidden behind glossy pages, he found it. Funds diverted. Children listed who did not exist. Photos reused. It was a lie. Clinton closed the file firmly. "I reject it," he said. At that exact moment, Monica slammed her hand on her desk. "He's not supposed to see that." Edwin watched Clinton closely. "Do you know what rejecting that means?" Edwin asked. Clinton nodded. "I lose approval, influence, maybe even this opportunity." "And if you approved it?" Edwin pressed. Clinton looked up. "I would gain everything, except my soul." The room went quiet. For the first time, Edwin laughed. Not loudly, not proudly, but with relief. "You sound like a man who has been hungry," he said. Clinton smiled faintly. "Hunger teaches you what matters." Hours passed, decision after decision. Some choices brought relief, others brought pain. Clinton rejected bribes disguised as gifts, approved loans with strict fairness, denied deals that would crush the weak. Each time, Edwin said nothing, but someone else was keeping score. The door opened suddenly. Monica walked in. Her presence changed the air. "Enough," she said sharply. "This has gone on long enough." Edwin turned slowly. "You should not be here." Monica smiled sweetly at Clinton. "Do you know," she said, "that my husband believes kindness builds empires?" Clinton nodded cautiously. Monica leaned closer. "Kindness also creates enemies," she whispered. She slid a final file onto the desk. "This one," she said, "will make you rich beyond imagination." Edwin stiffened. "Monica," she raised a hand. "Let him choose." Clinton opened the file. It was simple, one signature, no visible victims. But something felt wrong, very wrong. Clinton looked up. "Who gets hurt?" Monica smiled wider. "People you will never meet." Clinton closed the file. "I won't sign," he said. Monica's smile vanished. "You are a fool," she snapped. "Do you know what you just rejected?" Clinton met her gaze. "Yes," he said. "Becoming like you." The room froze. Edwin stood. "That is enough," he said quietly. He turned to Clinton. "You have passed the hardest part," Edwin said. "Not the tests, the temptation." Clinton exhaled shakily. Monica laughed bitterly. "Passed? You think this ends here?" She walked toward the door. "You can raise him," she said over her shoulder. "But remember, every act of kindness creates jealousy." She left. The door closed. Silence returned. Edwin sat across from Clinton. "When I was your age," he said softly, "I stood where you stand now." Clinton listened. "I passed these tests," Edwin continued, "but I failed one later." He looked away. "I trusted someone who loved power more than people." Clinton understood. "That is why this matters," Edwin said. "One arc does not end with one act. It must survive success." Edwin stood and placed his hand on Clinton's shoulder. "You are not rich," he said. "Not yet." Clinton nodded. "But," Edwin continued, "you are dangerous." Clinton frowned. "Dangerous?" "To injustice," Edwin replied. The loudspeakers across the building suddenly crackled. A voice echoed through the halls. "Attention! All senior stakeholders are requested in the main hall immediately." Edwin's phone vibrated. A message flashed on the screen. "Monica has called an emergency board meeting." Edwin looked at Clinton. "They are about to test you in public," he said. Clinton's heart pounded. "What happens if I fail?" Edwin smiled slowly. "Then the world will never know what it almost received." The doors opened, bright lights spilled in, and Clinton stepped forward, unaware that the final trial would cost him everything he thought he had gained. The main hall was already filling up when Clinton stepped inside. Men in tailored suits sat with straight backs. Women with sharp eyes whispered behind polite smiles. Power lived in that room, thick and heavy, like air before a storm. Clinton felt it press against his chest. He had never been in a place like this. At the front of the hall, a long glass table waited. Empty chairs lined both sides. At the center sat one chair, slightly raised, slightly apart. Edwin Anderson's chair. Clinton swallowed. Edwin leaned toward him and spoke quietly, so only Clinton could hear. "Remember this," he said. "Power does not always shout. Sometimes it smiles." Before Clinton could respond, the doors at the far end opened. Monica Anderson walked in. Her steps were slow, confident. Each heel strike echoed like a warning. The room fell silent. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Monica said, her voice smooth and controlled. "This meeting is about the future of this company." Several board members nodded. Some looked confused. Others looked curious. Monica gestured toward Clinton. "This young man," she continued, "has been undergoing a private evaluation." Private evaluation. The words sounded harmless, but Clinton felt exposed, like a light had been turned on him without warning. Monica smiled at him again. "Please, take a seat." Clinton hesitated. Edwin gave him a small nod. Clinton walked forward and sat at the long table, surrounded by people who controlled billions, while he owned almost nothing. Monica clasped her hands. "Let us begin," she said. Monica pressed a button. A screen behind her lit up with charts, numbers, and projections. "This is a proposal," she said. "A partnership that will double our profits within 18 months. Murmurs spread through the hall. Monica continued. "However, there is resistance from one individual." She turned sharply to Clinton. "You," she said. Clinton's heart jumped. "Tell us," Monica said calmly, "why you rejected this proposal." All eyes turned to him. Clinton's mouth went dry, but he remembered Edwin's words. He stood slowly. "I rejected it," Clinton said, "because it would harm people who have no voice in this room." A few board members frowned. "Harm how?" one man asked. Clinton took a breath. "Workers would lose protections. Communities would be displaced. Profits would grow, but pain would grow faster." Silence followed. Then someone laughed softly. "This is business," another voice said. "Not charity." Clinton nodded. "Yes, but business without kindness becomes cruelty." The laughter stopped. Edwin finally stood. "I asked Clinton to make decisions," he said, "without knowing who would benefit or who would be angry." He looked around the room. He chose fairness over applause. Monica turned to Edwin sharply. "You are letting emotion guide leadership." Edwin met her gaze. "No, I am letting character guide it." The tension thickened. Monica smiled again, but this time it was colder. "Very well," she said. "Let us vote." A pause. "Those in favor of proceeding with the partnership, raise your hands." Hands rose. Slowly, carefully. More than half the room. Clinton felt his chest tighten. Monica turned to him. "Do you see? The world does not run on kindness." Edwin said nothing. Monica lifted her hand. "Those against?" Fewer hands. Much fewer. The decision was clear. Monica exhaled in satisfaction. "Then it is settled." "Wait." The voice came from the back. An old man stood slowly. His hair was white. His eyes were sharp. It was Mr. Forbes Shore. The room froze. "I have one question," Mr. Shore said. "Who will be responsible for the consequences of this deal?" No one answered. He turned to Clinton. "Young man, if this fails, will you hide behind profit?" Clinton shook his head. "No, sir." "If it succeeds," Mr. Shore continued, "will you forget the people it hurts?" Clinton met his eyes. "No, sir." Mr. Shore nodded once. Then he turned to the board. I vote no. Gasps filled the room. Monic's face tightened. The vote shifted. Just enough. The partnership was rejected. Monic stood still, her hands trembling slightly. You are sabotaging growth, she snapped at Mr. Shore. No, he replied calmly. I am protecting legacy. Monic turned to Clinton, her voice low and sharp. You think you've won? Clinton said nothing. She leaned closer. This world punishes people like you. Then she walked out. The doors slammed behind her. The hall slowly emptied. Board members whispered. Some avoided Clinton's eyes. Others studied him with new interest. When only Edwin and Clinton remained, Edwin sat heavily in his chair. You survived, Edwin said. Clinton let out a shaky breath. I almost failed. Edwin smiled gently. You almost did what was easy. He stood and placed something on the table. A small wooden token. Carved into it were 2 words. 1 arc. This is not a reward, Edwin said. It is a reminder. Clinton picked it up carefully. As they walked out, Edwin stopped. There is something you must understand, he said quietly. What? Clinton asked. Edwin's eyes darkened. When kindness threatens power, he said, power strikes back. Almost on cue, Edwin's phone buzzed. A message flashed. Monic has initiated a private transfer of assets. Edwin closed his eyes briefly. The real test, he said, has just begun. Clinton felt a chill run through him. That night, the city glittered again. Music, lights, laughter. Another grand party. Another room full of people who believed they understood success. Clinton stood at the edge of the hall, dressed in a borrowed suit, feeling out of place. Edwin walked beside him. Watch carefully, Edwin whispered. This is where truth hides. Across the room, Monic laughed loudly, raising a glass. Edwin leaned closer to Clinton and said softly, words meant only for him. Tonight, I will whisper again. Clinton's heart pounded because he suddenly realized the whisper was not the end. It was the beginning. The party was brighter than the last one. Golden lights poured from the ceiling like sunlight trapped in glass. Music floated gently through the air, not loud this time, but confident, like it knew it belonged there. People laughed freely. Waiters moved smoothly. Everything felt complete. Yet beneath the beauty, something important was happening. Clinton stood near the edge of the hall, holding a glass of water he had not touched. His heart beat fast, not from fear, but from memory. Only weeks ago, he had stood in a room like this as a forgotten helper. Now, people nodded at him with respect, even if they did not fully understand why. Across the room, Edwin Anderson watched him. The billionaire's face carried no pride, only calm. Monic was not there. Her attempt to move assets quietly had failed. The board had acted fast. Edwin had acted faster. Power built on fear had collapsed under the weight of truth. Monic left that night, not in handcuffs, but in silence, her greatest fear. Edwin did not celebrate her fall. He never did. Edwin stepped down from the raised platform and walked slowly through the crowd. Conversation softened as he passed. People felt it, the same feeling they had felt the first time he whispered. He stopped in front of Clinton. Walk with me, Edwin said. They moved toward the balcony overlooking the city. Lagos spread before them, alive and endless. Lights blinked like millions of small chances. You did well, Edwin said. Clinton shook his head slightly. I only did what you taught me. Edwin smiled. No, you did what hunger taught you, what pain taught you. I only reminded you. Clinton looked down at his hands. I was afraid I would fail. Edwin nodded. I was afraid too. Years ago? He leaned on the railing. When I was younger, Edwin continued, I thought becoming rich would save me. But wealth only gives you a louder voice. It does not give you better words. Clinton listened closely. That is why, Edwin said, I tested you in private first. Power shows who people are. Kindness decides who they become. The music softened. People noticed Edwin and Clinton on the balcony. Phones came out quietly. Curiosity returned. Edwin knew this moment would be seen. That was the point. He turned toward Clinton, placed a hand on his shoulder, and leaned close. His voice was low, but the room leaned in. Read this before you are left behind, Edwin whispered. One arc, one act of random kindness, can make you more powerful than money. Clinton's eyes filled with tears, not because of the words, but because he finally understood them. Edwin straightened and raised his glass. The room fell silent. Tonight, he said, I want to remind you of something simple. He paused. I was once poor, very poor, and I survived because people helped me when they had no reason to. People shifted uncomfortably. I became who I am not by stepping on others, Edwin continued, but by lifting them. He gestured toward Clinton. This man was tested with money, influence, and temptation, and he chose people. Whispers spread. Therefore, Edwin said, effective immediately, Clinton will lead the ARC Foundation, not as charity, but as a system of opportunity. Applause broke out, but Edwin raised his hand again. This is not about him, he said. It is about all of us. Edwin's voice softened. One arc means this, he said. When you see pain, do not wait for permission to help. When you have power, use it gently. When you are poor, do not let bitterness steal your kindness. He looked around the room. Some of you listening today are struggling. Some feel invisible. Some feel left behind. Clinton felt those words deeply. Edwin continued. Let me tell you the truth. No one is coming to save the world. We save it in small pieces. One arc, one choice, one person. Edwin stepped back and nodded to Clinton. Clinton froze for a second. Then he stepped forward. I am not special, Clinton said honestly. I failed many times. I lost everything more than once. The room listened. But every time I helped someone, even when I was empty, I felt full for a moment. He swallowed. If you are listening to this and you are tired, please don't stop being kind. Kindness is not weakness. It is a seed. Silence followed. Then applause. Not loud. Deep. Later that night, as the party slowly faded into softer conversations, a young boy approached Clinton. Sir, the boy said shyly, I help clean after events. Clinton smiled. The boy hesitated. My mother is sick. I don't want money. I don't know what to do. Clinton felt his chest tighten. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small wooden token Edwin had given him. One arc. He pressed it gently into the boy's hand. Start here, Clinton said softly, and don't stop. The boy nodded, eyes shining. From a distance, Edwin watched, and for the first time in many years, he felt complete. If you are listening to this story and life feels heavy, hear this. You do not need millions to matter. You do not need power to change lives. You do not need permission to be kind. Sometimes, all it takes is one arc, one act of random kindness to turn pain into purpose and struggle into strength. Edwin once whispered it. Clinton lived it. Now, it belongs to you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section.